Hello fellow homesteaders. We are going to be hang drying flowers today to preserve them. This method works for preserving flowers if you're going to use them for arts and crafts, if you're going to use them for edibles, if you're going to use them for long-term food storage as part of a survival plan, or for natural healing remedies. I chose daisies because we have them by the thousands. They're my favorite flower and they can be eaten. They can be used for medicine. And they also look very cute in any kind of craft project you want to do. Now, I picked out my daisies and just grabbed them by the bunch straight out of the ground by my chicken and duck coop. So left the roots on them. There are some medicinal values in the roots. Drying them with these flowers, the roots would take exponentially longer. So I will dry these probably out in the sun, just solar dehydrate them. Because I'm not worried about them losing nutrients from the heat. It's a different type of drying with the roots. Nor am I worried about preserving the collar. The collar is not going to be important to you if you are going to use these daisies to eat or in medicine. But if you're using them for some type of craft project, you like them to any other flower that you use to retain its vibrant collar. The key to retaining the vibrant collar is once you pick them, you get them processed and quickly put in a cool, dry place where they're going to hang. The longer they're exposed to the sun and the longer they're out, they're growing dirt, the less likely that that collar is going to stay, nor will the collar and the leaves or stems stay that nice pretty shade of green. I like to do 6 to 8 flowers at a time in a bunch and hang multiple bunches instead of cramming too many together. Crowd them in, that way it takes longer for not really the flower heads to dry, but the stems. And if you're just going to pitch the stems, maybe you're not going to worry about that. But I usually use them for a variety of reasons, so I want to dry the stems as well. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'll go ahead and grab an 8th one here. This one is really too small. That one was plucked out. Maybe a grandchild helped me on that one, which is fine. These can just go in a vase for later. We are not going to waste them. You really do not want the stems to be any shorter. I don't know. I like to keep them about 10 inches. Some people say 6 inches, 8 inches. It really depends too on the place where you're drying them, how high you have to get up to hang them, or how short of a space there is if you're doing multiple rows to hang one beneath the other, which is fine, as long as they're not touching. Sorting them out to get them in like bunches takes longer than anything else. I pulled them out in groupings and had not laid them here and had them bunch up, mating like Christmas lights do. I could have picked them up by the bunch, but see, they were pretty thick bunches. That would be too big of a group to dry. The leaves are going to wilt, and sometimes you get that wilting and mildewing. It can spread through the stem and into the flower head, or you lose your stem and your leaves if you're saving these for edible medicinal reasons. So this grouping I put up out of the ground was rather large, and I knew that at the time. And you can just take your scissors and snip them off. You don't have to do all the unmating like you do with Christmas lights. But the first thing I'm going to do is get my bunch out, and see, this one's already broken. If that happens, just use them for something else, unless you want to go ahead and tie up the short broken ones together and see if that'll work. Because breaking like that, as it dries, it's going to break off and it's not going to be viable. So we'll grab another one, and this is a small bunch. You can use a rubber band, you can use a bread tie, you can use a little piece of wire, whatever you want to use to tie the ends together. But there are only, like I said, a few simple rules to this. And one of the rules being, if you tie the ends too tight, you're going to crease the stems, and as they dry, they're going to break. Or you're going to have the stems looking marred if you're wanting to use them for a craft project. And I believe that's why I like to keep my stems longer than what some people recommend. I want to tie them tight enough that as they dry and shrink in size, they are not going to fall off of their hanger, but not so tight that it crinkles the stem. Like I said, for aesthetic looks, you can always just chop off above it, but if you tie it so tight with a rubber band or piece of wire, bread tie tends to work best because the wire is coated and doesn't bite into it as much. But if you don't tie it tight enough, they're going to fall out and be on the ground and be ruined. So this is a nice little stack right here. And daisies aren't very thick. They're not very dense. You could probably go with more on the daisies, but since I have ample room, and twine is cheap and I have plenty of it, you can use baling twine. You can use, I wouldn't recommend using regular sewing thread. It's not quite as durable. Hanging for a long time is exposed to moisture depending on what type that you have, and also can cut into the stems too tightly. So something like twine, hair ribbon, this is just craft twine, baling twine, anything like that. Some people have used the floral tape, and that works okay, but when it gets exposed to any type of dampness, which you don't want your drying area, but it can happen, the tape can unravel. So twine seems to work best for me. So once I tie it up there, nice and snug but not overly tight. Then I'm going to go ahead and cut me about a couple arm's length of twine. That'll suit where I'm going to hang them. And I am just going to tie this twine right over top of the binding twine that holds the stems together. You don't want to make any extra creases if you have to, so just try to get it on there as close as you can. And it's snug like the first one, but not overly tight. You can tie it onto your twine here. I could have made a loop out of this and a knot, and I wouldn't even had to have gone onto my stem again. I made a knot here and then just took my twine through it. Now I'm tangling it all up. So you could do it like that and not even have to go around your stalks again. But I've not had a problem ever with them crinkling up in this method. So, and I will knot the end of it, and I'm going to hang it up on teacup hooks. I hang some on the rafters in one of my barn stalls. It's a cool, dry place unless we get really nasty weather. I mean, it's perfect for summertime, but you can do it in a closet. You can do it in an attic. Basement would be too damp. Sometimes I even hang them inside the woodshed. So it just depends on what spot you want, how long you want them to be. If you're not going to hang it very far off of a nail, you want a long nail or screw. You do not want the flowers hanging against any wood supports or metal supports. They need to have constant airflow. You would only, if you're going to hang it onto a nail, you probably only need about 6-8 inches of twine. You wouldn't have to use as much as what I am, because they're going to be hanging up rather high and then dangling down. And that's all there is to it. You'll lose some leaves off of the stalks, these little dangly leaves here. As they dry, some might end up on the ground as they shrivel up, or they kind of move if there's any wind at all. And see, this one, from manipulating it, I have another creased one. That does happen. The more you move them around, the more chances there are you're going to lose petals or crack a stem. So I'm going to take that one off, and that can be in a bunch that just goes in a vase on the table. Like I said, you can take your short ones and you could do a short hanging one. There's nothing wrong with them, but the way it dangled down, that was not going to work. And now I have another one getting attached. Yay, no crease. So just want to make sure they have enough airflow and the stems are as loose as they can be down to where you tie. There's still a little room for movement here. You can fan them out a bit. You don't want them clumped too tightly, but you just snip off above where the stem was. Or if you get lucky, you can keep the whole thing and it didn't get bunched too much to reduce airflow where you have it tied. But then you have your flowers and let them hang for about 3 weeks, and depending on the weather, could be about 4. Oh, I did get a crease. That one may still make it. I'm going to leave it be. Worst comes to worst, it just doesn't and falls off. So handle them carefully. They are going to, no matter what kind of flower you are using, some stems are thicker than the other ones, but as you pull them and you carry them in, there's a chance for breakage. That's why I yank these out of the ground near the bottom. And I'm just going to take a pair of snips and cut this off clean. I don't want to bend it and break it, which would be the easier way to do it, because you might get a little bit more breakage up in here that you can't see and have that rot while you have it hanging. My idea was just to grab a big stalk and hang them all like this as a time saver, and that may work with this one. It would just depend as I sort through this mess, and I should have laid them separate on the table, so let my error I made because I was rushing not be one that you make. And if you have any different hints or tips about how you've dried flowers or things to avoid, some great success stories or some epic failures, please share them with us in the comment section below.